So out of all the episodes of Blade of the Immortal up till now, this was probably the most tame and standard directing episode to date. And whether you were really into the anime directing that was kind of bizarre and hard to really tell what was going on at first and then it was kind of pieced together, or you kind of were like a little put off by it, this episode kind of brings it right back into the middle, and it was a very intriguing episode overall. Especially seen by just the emphasis that was put on the samurai in this whole idea of honor, and just really, this is a very different time period than what people are probably used to. I mean, you have characters who are literally willing to kill family members if they pose a threat to basically their status. And, the idea of creating these moves and techniques that will just, go against the norm and how you'll be viewed as just basically insane, and no one will take you seriously for wanting to do things that are different than the trends. It's like, it's a very different time period, which is why it can be so bloody, but also it has a little bit of romance kind of sprinkled throughout it, just with how certain characters just even perceive their love for their passion, even if that passion is killing, and it just kind of brings it into something that feels unique, and you can call it Blade of the Immortal, not just a copy and paste of another samurai anime that we've seen before. I thought it was quite interesting the direction they took with the story, and how we get introduced to basically the man leading the cause, who is kind of behind our central lead character Rin and just who she's lost. And it's basically her idea, like, she doesn't even really understand why she's going after revenge. Like, obviously, people caused her family harm. Of course, she wants revenge, but when you're going to this length, if you're going to the length that she is to train and, get people like our central character, and just the idea of wanting to just bloodthirst that bad, like, there has to be a reason for that. Like, at some point, most people would just accept fate, maybe try to forget, maybe try to heal, but there would be some people who would naturally try to push back and be a murderer. But not everyone's cut out for that lifestyle, and as of right now, she isn't. But I do like the idea that she is coming into her own form and kind of becoming her own style of warrior, even though she may not be able to lift a broadsword or maybe even just a general samurai sword. She can use knives and lighter equipment, and if she masters that, she could be, honestly, an assassin. She could be someone with her own style that could be very deadly. So that's why I think I like this episode, is because up till now, I think I've even seen some people say, like, why does she really try this hard? Even after what happened to her family, why would you try that hard for revenge? And yeah, honestly, even if this happened to you, can you really say that you would, live a life just solely bent on killing these people? Or would you just run and hide? There would be a lot of ways to tackle what she's went through, and to actually see her confront this man who, he's so interesting. I wasn't really excited to see this man speak. I was like, okay, let's just kill him, move on to the next. But what Blade of the Immortal showed me this week is how I really want to hear everyone talk. I want to see everyone's perspective, because this is a very complex time period, and even though he's appearing to be the antagonist, maybe even people would want to call him the villain, he really is just a person walking his own path who has done things that most people would never even want to do, but still, he feels like a man with honor in his own viewpoint. I think it's super easy to just kind of get tunnel vision and say, these characters are bad, let's kill them. But this is a time where warriors, or just people in general, will do such vile things and will pass it off as honor and righteous. And I thought it was interesting how this episode, for the most part, was just structured around basically her not being able to do anything except basically be tied up, and you're like, oh god, what's going to happen? Is it going down the rape path? Is it going down the murder path? Or is it going down just dialogue? And it just went through dialogue, and just seeing the idea of why her family had to be killed, and just this idea of, it's kind of like this internal family conflict and kind of taking back what appears to have been stolen from you, and how you're creating this own technique, which is so cool. I love it when a character doesn't rely on just brute strength, but uses gravity and rotation to his advantage. His sword is ridiculously powerful. It's heavy, it's strong, but unless you're incredibly buff, you're not going to be able to swing it like a normal sword. But if you let just gravity do its thing and control its direction, you can do insane things. And I love how they actually stylize that both with the sound effects and the animation. Before you know how heavy his sword is, it does look like something that's incredibly lightweight, as seen by him just throwing it around and slicing up leaves. But then when you actually see how heavy it is, when you really get into the sound effects, it actually sounds like something that is defying gravity in a lot of ways. And just that little bits of detail really helps to get you immersed into what you're seeing on screen. This series is doing something that I quite appreciate, and it's its attention to detail. It really wants you to believe this is a living and breathing environment, and when characters are fearing for their life, you have to give major props to our girl's voice actor. She felt like she was about to die. Like, she was almost begging for her life, but not begging and kind of throwing it back into his face. The voice acting has its moments of just absolute spectacular moments where you're like, holy shit. How, like, this scene could have just been like half of that and it would have been good. But your actor went into that extreme, like, it really helps you buy into what you're seeing on screen. And that entire sequence could have been easily disposable. Easily you just wanted to skim past it. But it's something where characters just kind of follow their gut. People really just do things based on a gut feeling in this show. From all our characters, you know, why would you really tag along with this girl? Well, she reminds you of your sister who you lost and you naturally want to help her. Why would you naturally go after revenge? That's what your gut's telling you. Even if you can't naturally and reasonably explain it, that's what you want to do. Why would you let a girl who could maybe kill you in the future, let her go? Well, she's clearly not a part of this clan anymore because her techniques, her weaponry, that's not what her father would have used. It's very interesting the honor the show has despite appearing to just be bloodshed and murder. Like, that's what's super cool about Blade of the Immortal to me, is that its characters, even if we take them at face value, they're pretty interesting, but once they start speaking, once you even see them kill, it feels like they have justifiable reasons for their actions in this time period, even if we don't totally understand them, at least right at the beginning. Like, we literally have characters who will cut off heads and attach them to his body, and they recognize they're a villain, but how they actually just portray these characters interacting with each other, it's just something that, it feels artistic, but it also feels really grounded to what you would expect from an anime tackling this time period, where it is a lot of complex subject matter, stuff that is touchy, that is sometimes disturbing, but also it's really gripping with how its characters are being just explored overall. I especially love the moment with the grandfathers and just that past sequence, watching how you're seeing this kid and just, you know, he's rising to be a great swordsman, and then you're like, he's gonna kill me, please kill him because I can't do it, and then you just, it's like this ball of bloodshed. It's such a weird time period where murder can be perceived as honor, or it can be perceived as something just vile and corrupt. Like, every character kind of has their own tunnel vision of what they perceive is right or wrong. And because there isn't like this moral authority like we would have in modern day, it's like there's no code of conduct except one that's made between warriors, and you can sometimes just pass off a sword to the head and say that is actually honor. Like, it's not something you see too often, especially shown by how much gore they actually do show in this series. I obviously know this isn't going to be the most popular anime of the season, and I obviously recognize this isn't going to be a series that is going to page for page adapt the manga. But for me, it doesn't feel like the pacing is iffy. It actually does feel like I'm getting inside these characters' head. When we get the action, it feels like it's fleshed out and thought out, and just characters standing around talking, I feel like we get the appropriate amount of time to really understand how complex their situation actually is. Like, you're already getting a taste. Like, you know, for our central lead, he's following this girl and protecting her because he feels guilty for his sister, but for her, it's indicating that she may have romantic feelings for him. And that will be an interesting dynamic to explore, because this is a time period where it's not the typical time period where it's like, oh, you know, even if they go down the brother and sister road, they would never touch upon more, because this is a time period where it can get a little taboo with its romantic feelings, but at the same time, it may be pushed back. Like, there's a lot of ways to explore their central bond, how they could grow as friends, how they could grow as family, or maybe even grow romantically. But that's not the core thing. It's just something that's a little extra layer that you're interested in following. The main thing is this path of revenge. Also, for a man who probably really wants to die, but kind of keeps getting kind of roped back into eternal life. You want to follow that. You want to see the revenge story. You want to see the eternal life. And you also want to see this other clan. Which honestly, up to this point, I wasn't all that interested in the antagonist side. Like, when we got a character from their side, yeah, I wanted to hear them speak, I wanted to hear their reasoning, or just see their personality. But after this week, I want to see what really drives them, because they were being perceived as just a villain group up till now. But now you're seeing that should the anime have focus on their group instead of our central two characters, we probably would have looked at our central duo as the villains like we currently look at a lot of the characters on this other side. As really, all these characters are killers. All these characters want to kill, all these characters are driven by something, whether they justify murder because of honor or they justify murder because of revenge. This is a very morally complex time period, and I like how they're not shying away from it. But obviously the visuals get across the gore, but it's also just the gut reactions from these characters that really sell you as being like, god damn, this is really selling us as feeling like Blade of the Immortal, it's not holding back. Now, obviously, I'm sure it's holding back in some of the manga regards, but I really do like this anime a whole lot. And I know I'm not going to be like the popular opinion here saying this is a great anime. I've seen some mixed responses for this. But what can I say? Obviously, for myself, I'm having a blast watching it. As long as I'm having a blast watching it, I'll keep reviewing this because I think it's a really solid show overall. But what did everyone think? For people who have any experience with the source material, any of the other projects, or anime originals like myself, let me know down in that comment section below. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to drop a like and also hit that subscribe button if you have been new. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.